Hey guys, thanks for joining me in this video. So this video, we will be discussing about a NestJS framework, which is used to build the REST APIs on the Node.js runtime. So we will explore how NestJS framework helps us build the REST APIs on our backend servers much quicker, and why companies are pushing really hard towards building their or rewriting their applications using NestJS framework of late, and how development teams have been doing that. So in today's video, we'll touch upon a few of the points, see the differences between writing a conventional backend APIs, building backend APIs using Node.js, along with Express and also with the NestJS framework. Having said that, now let's jump in and see NestJS. So I will go to NestJS, the NestJS progressive framework. So it says NestJS is a progressive Node.js framework for building efficient, reliable, and scalable server-side applications, which is obviously what we just spoke about. So Node.js is a runtime. So if you go to Node.js, it's a JavaScript runtime to build cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment that lets developers create servers, web apps, command line tools, and scripts. So why? So while the whole world has been building backend servers using Node.js for a decade or so now, and they uh, they have been doing it using ExpressJS, right? Uh, the challenge with this is that Express is not a really opinionated framework as such. Okay, so it's a fast but very much unopinionated and minimalistic framework for Node.js. So if I say, okay, I want to get started, I want to write a hello world, all that we have to do is use, what do you say, install Express.js in your Node folder, wherever you want to build your backend servers, and then import that, expose a port, then do some get and post operations that you want to build on that server, and then expose this port to listen to that port number. So that's essentially what we see here. But having said that, this is as the complexity of the application grows, the routing, the middleware, the way we structure and organize our HTTP routes, right? Like get, post, update, delete, and everything else in the code base becomes pretty complex. And we all know that with enterprise applications, the complexity is always there. So how do we do it? So one such question is what NestJS is trying to address, and they say that they're pretty much an opinionated, scalable, and efficient server-side framework for building applications using Node.js. That's what this whole, what do you say, this whole paragraph says. Of course, again, if you look through their website, uh, behind the scenes, Nest really uses the Express by default. If you really want to switch and configure, you can even move to Fastify. But in our discussion, this is not really a tutorial, but a kind of a discussion that we generally have as developers and dev teams back in the office at our desk when we try to build something. That's how I usually try building my YouTube videos. So I'll be glad if you have any comments, just put them in the comments section, and I'll be happy to read through them. But that's how I would do it. I never want to do a spoon feeding kind of tutorials, because that's not going to fetch you anything. So this is how and why, what really goes into the discussions of being a developer in the real sense when you're at desk. And that's how I try to schedule these videos. So Nest provides a level of abstraction. So That's what we were speaking, right? As projects complexity grows, writing things which are at a lower level becomes really tough, and maintaining them also becomes really tough. So Nest takes you a step ahead. So if you really want to look at how Node.js, how you can build REST APIs and backend servers using Node.js, right? You import your HTTP node module, and then you access the create server functionality within it, the function, and then you say, okay, I want to send the response as hello world whenever someone sends me a get request, right, at port 3000. And this, I'm sorry, let's zoom in a little. Let's see if I, yeah, so this is, it simply starts a HTTP local server on port 3000. So this piece of code is what Express has improved and hid all the, abstracted out all the core node modules, the HTTP modules. And that's how when you say, hey, I want to import Express, and then Express function becomes assigned to the app, the get functionality, the post functionality, everything else that we have gets abstracted to the Express level. Now, Nest is abstracting it to another level, and those common Node.js frameworks, which is obviously Express and Fastify here, but also exposes their APIs directly to the developer. This gives developers the freedom to use this myriad of third-party modules, which are available for the underlying platform also. So what Nest is saying is that, having said that, I'm a framework, for building your Node.js server-side applications, uh, because I give you the option to build them under the hood with Express or Fastify. You can still use all those third-party libraries, which are the Node modules available for you as developers. Mm, they can still be used with the Nest framework. You don't have to go and use those modules the Nest way, right? That's what Nest is trying to say. Okay, so why would really we want to have NestJS is because while there are plenty of superb libraries, helpers, and tools exist in Node.js as server-side JavaScript, of course, none of them efficiently solve the main problem of architecture. Now, what this architecture is? It can be as simple as structuring your code, organizing your code base, functionality wise or your domain wise, to how I can test it, how I can deploy it, how I can expose my APIs, or how I can build to two different functionalities which are loosely coupled but still be integrated as one system. So that's how that's what the end goal has been, or that's what the vision of Nest.js is when the Nest creators have come together to build it. Then how do I get started? The easiest way to get started with Nest is to download their Nest CLI. So once we have Node installed in our system, and then of course we have npm also installed, and then we globally install the NestJS CLI, which is similar to how we install Angular CLIs. This is one of the concepts that Nest has, really appreciated and picked it up as in their framework from Angular, and the developers and the creator of NestJS really appreciates that. And once you have the Nest installed globally, right? To create, say, if you really want to create a node project, right, how do you do it? Let me bring up a sample sublime text here. Okay, so what we essentially do is, like, I go create our dev folder. Say for example, if I'm doing tasks management, right? uh, like ServiceNow has this task management, Zira has task management, Zira's newest tool has this task management, right? I create my tasks management for, And then under that, I will have, say, for example, a user profile that I want to have. And then there's an authentication and authorization, right? Then I have that folder. Now there are multiple tasks that a user can create, right? And then there can be multiple comments with like I can assign it to multiple tasks. Then again, I go back to the user profile, and then the task can have multiple statuses. All those statuses are now sitting inside the task. So we essentially are creating all of this, but it depends. If you really have a team of great developers, you structure them and organize them pretty decently, but otherwise it becomes really messy over a period of time as complexity grows. So instead, Nest says, hey, just say Nest new and give me the project name. I'll create a folder for you and I'll scaffold, which is I'll bootstrap your application, not bootstrap, but scaffold means I'll create the bare minimum skeletal files and other stuff that you really need for your project to get started with, right? So to get started, let's not spend more time on the website. We will quickly go and pick up a sample. So I'm on my WSL system, which is running Ubuntu 2004. So I created a folder called Nest. Of course, there are a couple of folders already. So I was just testing. I created a couple of test projects before I started recording this video. So as per the documentation, all that we now have to do is say Nest new project name. You might be wondering, okay, where is that CLI? Did you install it? Of course, yes, I did that. It's straightforward. Again, I'll have to mention that this video discussion that we're doing here, or the pair programming kind of stuff that we're doing, is not for beginners of Node.js as such, or building server-side applications, but predominantly for someone who has experience building server-side applications using Node, Express, or Node with TypeScript and ExpressJS, or Kova.js and other frame libraries, and then you're trying to build something on NestJS, right? So if I see I have a older Node version, which is Node 16, the recommended Node version, right, should be somewhere here in there. Yeah, it's the bare minimum version is Node 16. Thankfully, we have Node 16.17, which should help us. And then I have the NPM version as 8, I believe, for 16. Yeah. And then I say my Nest version. I have 8 or 10 of the Node Nest version, Nest CLI. It's taking a little time. Yeah, 10.3.2. So that's how I'm confident that I can just run this piece of code. So I'll say nest new. Um, what do I say? Let's put this three. So now it says, okay, let me start scaffolding your application. And what's the package manager? Of course, you can use npm, pnpm, yarn. I have npm installed, so I would go and start using npm. If you see now, it's creating a few files for us. So that whole structure of our application is what it's building for us now, as when it says installation in progress. Let that come back. All right, so the installation was in progress and then it got finished. So then it says successfully created your project, which is test three. And then you can get started with the following commands, which is cd into your application and then do npm run start. Of course, they have thanks for installing, and if you want to really donate, uh, oops, let's inspect what let's inspect what do I have. I now have the test three folder. So if you look at this, it's a folder. And then let's get into that. Okay, obviously because I have the tool installed which says if Git is installed on which branch I am, and now blueprint the contents of it. So that's what it was saying, right? Oops, we should have taken a screenshot of it. That's okay. So so obviously, because it says that we are in love with TypeScript, but with all love for Node.js. So by default, it comes with TypeScript, but you can still want to use it with JavaScript. You can still do that, but you would need an additional step to be done. And so we would stick with TypeScript. So obviously, because we need TypeScript, would need we would have a TS config, a TS build.json, then there's a SRC folder, which is a great idea that they picked it up from Angular. So all the code sits inside the SRC, and then we have our regular node modules, a package log and a package JSON, of course, the heart of our application. Then the CLI settings for Nest. We'll touch this upon in further videos, but not today. Um, we'll talk a little less and now jump into code. So I'll say, hey, can you please open me Visual Code here? So I get my VS Code. Obviously, I'm on WSL, so it would try to connect me to my remote server. So it's gonna take a little time. So it says I'm on WSL one to shortcut. So it's trying to load. Yeah, obviously it's trying to load this test three folder. Uh, right, let's zoom in a little. Uh, let's okay. So we zoom in and see, right? We have the main.ts, which is the entry point for our Nest application. And then there are a few files in our source folder along with the main.ts. So at first look, this feels pretty similar to how uh, you know uh, frame how the developers with C sharp or Java would do it, right? Like there's a main entry point for your application if you're building it on C sharp, and then from there you start bootstrapping the whole application and multiple layers within it. So similarly, the main.ts is the starting point for our application. We'll come back to the other files in a minute or so. So if you look at the code, right? I'll I have two imports, a Nest factory and an app module. And then obviously because it's the main.js, the function itself is named Bootstrap. That's a great thing by the creators, the devs at NestJS. And then this two are what look similar, but look little intimidating for us. Obviously, line six is what most of us are got used to. So this is similar to how ExpressJS would expose our application, which is app.listen on port, right? This is what it is. So let's quickly copy this and see if I can fill it up on my Sublime text. Put it here. Uh, let's say this is TypeScript. So this should be under JavaScript, A, B, C, D, JavaScript. Okay, so this is our Express, right? We import the Express node module and then we create a variable called app and assign Express to that, and then we define a port, and then we at the root. When someone hits the root of our API, we say, hey, respond them back with a hello world. And then we say, hey, now that I have my Express, I want to listen to this port, right? Uh, and when someone tries to go visit the port, localhost 3000 slash, right, localhost colon 3000, which is the root, which is the root, they would be, they would receive hello world. So similarly, Nest also, if we expose it by default at 3000 port, and when someone would hit the root of it, it would respond with some data. Now, what is that data? Where is it sitting? Now, who's creating this uh, app for us, right? In case of ExpressJS, in case of ExpressJS, I said, hey, can I grab the whole stuff that's in Express and assign it to this constant? And that would now become my ExpressJS functionality, the core functionality that would hold the core functionality and then get listen and other functionalities that has that. So basic routing. So app and then the method of it, the HTTP request methods are get, post, update, delayed, and then the handler is nothing but the, the request and the response. This function, this whole thing is the handler. Yeah, so when someone hits the root, we would send a hello world, and when someone posts at the root, we take that post and then send, okay, we got a post request from you. Similarly is the case with the put and delete examples that we have, right? And now what's that? Now, where is that in my code? I want to respond to the hello world. That's first thing, that's for sure. But how do I spin up my new stuff, right? This is where Nest is using the factory design pattern, and then Nest factory gets to create that all for us. And that takes the app module, which is our very, the core module for our Nest application, on top of which gets invoked by our main.ts, the bootstrap functionality. Now, if I go into the app module, right, it has four files: the module, the controller, the service, and the spec. So spec is for test. We can test this. If you want, we can delete this. Let's remove this. If I remove the test spec file, the test file, what we right now see is that the three important stuff is the main module.ts, and then the controller, and then the service, right? Now, let's see what happens if I'm trying to hit a localhost 3000. But how do I start the application right now? Let me go to the terminal. I'm at the test folder. Obviously, it shows it here. And then, and then say npm start dev. Okay, there should be npm run start dev, right? Now it says, hey, your application is now going to start, and it's going to start with Nest Watch. So, so if we were to build a Node.js application and we were to have our changes reflected to our APIs dynamically, whenever there's a change, we would use this Node module called Node Watch, and then we would put a flag in our package.json saying hyphen hyphen watch. So we don't have to do that. That's what Nest is trying to do for us with the Nest watch flag. So if I'm going to step into the package.json and check what the start dev would say is Nest would start the application with a watch flag. That's all it is to it. And let's minimize this. Let's bring up. Now there's some good stuff. Our Nest is actually logging for us to help the developers in the console. So Nest is saying that, let me bring my face a little down. Hmm, Just move this a little up. Okay. So Nest is saying that it's going to start the Nest application, but when it starts, what does it do? It says that I'm trying to initialize the dependencies within the app module, which is your entry module, like the core module of the whole Nest application for your backend server. The whole, not for Nest, but actually your backend server, right? And then it says, you know what? I found an app controller for it. And then the app controller says that you have an HTTP method, which is a get. And I could find it in your system in the Nest application. And I'm trying to map that. And I'm going to create this route for you. And once that route is created, mapped, and exposed, it says now your application is successfully started. Now let's go to the browser and see what we have got here. Right? Mm, I would now go to the localhost 3000, which we had, and which was what we were talking when we had the ExpressJS, and say, hello world. Now, this is quite surprising, right? Now I have a hello world, but where is this code exactly sitting in my Nest application? That's what we would discuss in the next video.